So today is May 2021. We're going to show a few issues that I have with the Rhodes voices, specifically on Yamaha YC61 keyboard. This one has the latest firmware update. It's called 1.10 version, and it also includes two new Rhodes voices that also have the same issue as all the other Rhodes voices, which I'm going to show you right now, which is an issue of sampling by the engineers at Yamaha when they created the original sounds of this board. Now, what happens is there are a few different notes that are different, inconsistent sounding than the rest of the notes within that voice. So the first one is 73RD Studio. I'll show you what that sounds like. You hear that group of four notes, there's an extra metallic clang sound. The rest of the notes, now that's what a Rhodes is supposed to sound like. So all the notes above and below, that little group of clinkers there, I call them, they're clinkers, they're standouts, they sound differently. And if you're playing alone and you happen to be a picky musician like I am, that's going to bother you. It bothers me. If you're playing in a band, well, that's a different issue. All right, so I'll move on to another Rhodes voice and show you another example. This one is a 73RD. Now, this particular voice, I would say that it's a more subtle. It's probably, it may not even come across in a recording, but it definitely comes across to my ear. There's one note right there that's lower volume, significantly lower volume. When you're playing it live, it may not come across in the recording, but anyway, the surrounding notes are a certain volume. So that note is lower volume, and that's another problem that you have in these Rhodes voices. You'll have a volume inconsistency occasionally because of, they were not careful enough when they did the sampling. By the way, the problem also occurs on a couple of the acoustic pianos, specifically the S700 grand piano sound. There are a couple of notes that will be at a lower volume or maybe a higher volume than the surrounding notes. So there's inconsistencies, and when you hit it, it stands out, and that's kind of annoying because when you play a regular piano or when you play a properly restored genuine Rhodes piano, you don't get a few standout clinkers or, one note here or there that's at a lower volume. You expect to hear on a nicely sampled keyboard, you want to hear notes of all a consistent volume and also consistent timbre, not with those standout clanging clinkers like I just showed you on the previous voice. Let's move to another one. This one's called the 75RD Funky. So on this one, you've got a different kind of problem where those three notes there are very muffled. There's almost no treble. But you can hear the difference. So there's an inconsistency in the sampling there, and because of that, that's another Rhodes voice that I just don't play because it annoys me when I hit the clinker notes. So I'll play one more. This is the this is going to be the 78 RD. So you have another group of notes there with an extra metallic ping in them, whereas all the rest of the notes are the kind of Rhodes typical sound that you would want to hear and you expect to hear. And so that's a problem there. This one, the 73 RD Studio, that probably most clearly exemplifies, demonstrates that clanginess that you'll get on certain notes. And so the cause of this problem is obviously that Yamaha engineers, when they made these voices, sampled them. They used a 40 or 50-year-old Rhodes keyboard. They stopped making those keyboards back in the 70s, so people who sample them, they have to sample an old keyboard. And what they should have done, which is what professional samplers usually do, is make sure that the Rhodes keyboard has been properly, completely, scrupulously, professionally restored to where all of the hammers and the felts and the action is adjusted and materials replaced on the hammers and felts so that the hammers all strike at the same way, the same volume, the same timbre. Not with a clinker like that. Now, a clinker like that happens when you've got like a worn hammer that's hitting the tine differently, and it's an old instrument that's been beat up and not properly restored. Okay, so anyway, the fix for that, to get to the final subject, what's the fix for all of this? Well, one fix is to buy a Nord Electro 6D, because according to a dealer who happens to also be a professional keyboard in the Midwest, one of the largest dealers in the Midwest that I spoke with, he's claimed that he highly recommends for Rhodes and acoustic pianos the Nord Electro 6D in order to avoid this problem that I was complaining to him about on the Yamaha. And he said, well, you know, if you buy a Rhodes, a Nord Electro 6D, you're not going to get those problems. Well, I have not yet verified that by playing every note on a Nord Electro 6D, but I believe he's most likely right, because from every reputation, everybody plays those for piano, electric, and acoustic, and they're famous for that, their quality. And you can hear it on your YouTube demos that there's a very high quality on the Nord Electro 6Ds for Rhodes and whatever. Now, this Yamaha, I don't have any complaints on the B3 voice. If you want to buy yourself a nice B3, excellent, go ahead. But if you're expecting to get consistent quality with the current voices that are on this, for Rhodes, and also the acoustic pianos, you're going to find some clinkers, some notes that are a different volume than the rest, carelessly sampled on the Rhodes, and also some of the acoustic. In fact, most of them. Anyway, the other fix is, other than buying a different keyboard, that I would request that for the benefit of all future Yamaha YC61 and 81, whatever series keyboards there are, I believe they all have the same voices, that they should make new Rhodes voices, maybe two or three or four new Rhodes voices with these, removing these clinkers, sample a properly restored Rhodes, professionally restore the Rhodes, and then sample it so that all the notes sound like that. Your Rhodes smooth as butter sound that you want to hear, that vintage smooth Rhodes sound, where you're not going to get clinkers like a Tinker toy or something, like a kid's xylophone mixed in. And so I request that they do that Yamaha engineers go back, make 3 or 4 new voices, make them available for download, that all of us users, the buyers who are stuck with these current voices, so we can get an improved, consistent Rhodes voices, and also do the same thing for the acoustic pianos. Go back and check those, and if you find notes of a different volume or whatever, fix it, and give us a new, improved, specifically Rhodes and a couple of acoustic piano, grand piano voices that are consistent, where all the notes are at the same volume as its neighbors and the same timbre, not some kind of standout clinkers. So that's my review.